Hey guys, this is Dan Seifert from MobileBurn.com, and what I'm taking a look at today is the new Apple iPhone 4S, the latest in the Apple iPhone 4 Apple iPhone family, I should say, latest generation to be released by Apple. And as you might notice or might have heard, it is physically exactly the same as the outgoing Apple iPhone 4. And most of the upgrades, or all of the upgrades, I should say, are really inside the device and with the software that it's running. But let's take a look at the hardware here. As we're familiar with now, the iPhone 4S features a 3.5-inch Retina display, which means it has 960 by 640 pixels of resolution, about 326 points per inch, so it's very, very sharp. Let's see if we can get the camera lens to focus there, and you can see the resolution is very, very crisp as usual, especially combined with the small size of the screen. You get very sharp images, very easy on the eyes and easy to read. Above that, you've got your front-facing VGA camera, which is exactly the same as we saw on the iPhone 4. Then you've got a proximity sensor and your earpiece. And below, you've got the standard home key, which is the same as it's been on every iPhone that's been released. Look at the side of the iPhone 4S. It's still the same exact dimensions, so it's 9.3 millimeters thick. The phone itself weighs about 140 grams, so it's a small-size phone, and it does have a good heft to it in your hands, as you would expect from a phone that's made of big pieces of glass and metal bands. Here we've got the ringer switch and then the volume up and down controls, and you can see these little breaks here in the metal band. The metal band acts as your antenna for your Wi-Fi and your cellular radios, and these metal breaks help separate them. Underneath you've got your standard Apple 30-pin connector, and then next to it you've got two speakers, loudspeakers there. Over on the other side of the iPhone 4S we've got your SIM card slot. This particular model in my hands is an AT&T model, but both the Verizon Wireless and Sprint versions of the iPhone 4S also have the SIM card slot, as they are now global models. So the same phone is for all three carriers, and inside you'll find both CDMA and GSM support. Of course, in the AT&T version, the CDMA support is deactivated. Then we've got the brakes for the antenna bands there as well. Up top, you got your power sleep unlock key, noise cancelling microphone right there, and then a 3.5mm headphone jack. Now on the back you've got the glass panel that was on the iPhone 4, same exact thing. Up here in the upper right corner we've got the camera in the same spot, but it's not the same camera. We've got an upgraded 8-megapixel camera with a new lens and a new backside illuminated sensor. Apple claims that the new sensor is about 73% more sensitive to light than the 5-megapixel camera that was on the iPhone 4, which was already pretty impressive, so it's quite a bit of an upgrade there. It's also got an f2.4 aperture, so it's very bright and lets a lot of light in. It is capable of recording 1080p video, and of course it records 8-megapixel stills. Next to that we've got an LED flash like we saw on the previous model. So there you go. I mean, it's the hardware of the iPhone 4. It's exactly the same thing as we've seen since June of 2010 with the iPhone 4. Still very impressive as far as design-wise goes. Of course, that is entirely subjective, but the build quality and the materials used are really some of the best on the market as far as smartphones go. You won't find any plastic pieces on here or anything like that. It is all solid quality materials used in the construction, and there really is no creaks or breaks or anything like that. Of course, it is prone to being a little bit slippery because it is glass, and should you drop it, the glass will shatter from time to time, so that is something to be careful of if you happen to be a hard user or you happen to drop your phones very often. Now, just to do a quick comparison to show you that it is exactly the same, I've got an iPhone 4 here. There's no markings on them, so you really can't tell, and you're going to have to take my word for it, but this one is the iPhone 4S in my left hand, and this is the iPhone 4 in my right hand, and as you can see, they are physically identical. Let's flip this over this way here. So you've got the buttons right there, the antenna band. At the bottom, we've got the iPhone 4 on top, the iPhone 4S on the bottom. Now over here, we've got the iPhone 4 on top and the 4S on the bottom again. As you can see, the iPhone 4, this happens to be a CDMA model, and it does not have the SIM card slot. So because the iPhone 4 was not a global phone. And the top is exactly the same, as you can see. And then the backs of the two devices are exactly the same. This one now being on the right is the iPhone 4S, and the iPhone 4 is on the left. Now that we've seen that the outside of the phone is exactly the same as the iPhone 4, the real secret to the iPhone 4S, or the new things, is of course on the inside. Inside we've got a new A5 processor that is pulled from the iPad 2. So you've got a dual-core processor that Apple claims to have twice the browsing speed of the iPhone 4 and 7 times the graphics capabilities. So it is significantly faster, and we do notice that in our day-to-day usage of the phone itself. Apps do open faster. The animations and such are very fast and fluid. You've got what some people claim to be 60 frames per second animations the entire time. So you've got a lot going on as far as animations go, but everything is very buttery smooth with this processor. Now, the other claim to fame, of course, is the fact that this is running iOS 5, which is also available for the older models back to the 3GS. So the iPhone 4 and the iPhone 3GS are also able to be upgraded to iOS 5, excuse me. And Apple says there's about 200 improvements or new features with iOS 5. But we're just going to show you some of the major ones that are different. And I think the one thing that many people have been waiting a long time for is for Apple to address its notification system in iOS. And instead of the modal pop-ups that we've had before, Apple has adopted a rather familiar drawer up top that allows you to see your notifications in a familiar way that's very similar to what you see on Android phones, or even on Nokia Symbian Bell phones now, has the same exact type of drawer system. Apple does have some pretty cool features as far as the drawer goes. You can clear notifications out singularly, like you've seen on some Android phones from Motorola. Allows you to control the notifications one by one, which is pretty cool. You can sort them by time or priority if you prefer. Manually sort them by which notifications are most important to you. And you can control the level of notifications for each app. You can say whether one app will provide notifications or not. So you do have quite a bit of granular control with the notification center in iOS. Up top, you can see I've got a little weather ticker there that will show you my local weather information. And I can also add a stock ticker. So if I want to know what's exactly going on in the stock market at any given time, I can just drag down the notification bar right from the top and check it out. Now if we go to our settings here, we can take a look at the settings for notifications. Like I was saying earlier, you can control them manually or by time, and then you can control all the different apps that have notifications. You can control how they behave, which is pretty cool. Now the iPhone 4S has a trick up its sleeve that other iPhone models won't have, and that's the new Siri voice assistant system. And we've seen voice assistant or voice control with other smartphones for a long time now. This is the first time that it's really gotten into a really deep level on the iPhone. iPhone has actually had voice control for a long time as well. You could say things like play the Beatles, and it would play the Beatles and things like that. However, Siri is a bit more advanced than that, and you do have quite a few options as to what you can do with it. So you activate it in two ways. You can hold the home key down for a couple of seconds and it will activate, or you can actually set it to hold the phone up to your ear to activate. So let's open it up here. Now here we've got it's open and ready to go, and it's actually listening to me speak. And we'll just
I don't know what you mean by
cancel that for now. Now we can see a bunch of different things that it gives us an option to do. So you can call a person, we can play music, we can set up meetings and set reminders. You can look up mapping, you can search the web, you can check the weather, which is pretty cool. You can also, what's very cool about it is you can speak in natural language. So instead of having to memorize a bunch of commands, you can just say things like, remind me to check the website when I get home.
Here's your reminder for when you get home.
So there you go.
Shall I create it?
Yes.
Okay, I'll remind you.
So there you go. You can have it create reminders and stuff by just speaking naturally to the device without having to memorize a bunch of commands. Now you can do a lot of different things with Siri. You can do things like schedule calendar appointments. Schedule a meeting for 9 a.m. on Monday.
One moment, please. Okay, I set up your meeting for tomorrow. Are you ready for me to schedule it?
Yes.
Okay, it's scheduled for tomorrow.
You can also search the web, so you can say, who won the 1986 World Series?
Let me think. This might answer your question.
And since Apple has partnered with Wolfram Alpha, you can get a whole bunch of facts answered quickly and easily, which is pretty cool. What's the weather like in Albuquerque, New Mexico?
Okay, here's the weather for Albuquerque, New Mexico today through this Friday.
What about Paris, France?
Here's the forecast for Paris, France today through this Friday.
So as you can see, it's context aware, so it knows that I was asking about the weather in Albuquerque, and then I switched to Paris, France, and it gave me the weather in Paris, France, without having to say what's the weather in Paris. So it's a very smart system. It is still in beta right now, so Apple will certainly be improving this and probably extending its capabilities, but you can have quite a bit of fun with Siri, even now as it stands. Now, you also, in addition to those voice controls, you also have the ability to enter text with your voice, much like we've seen with Android for a long time now. Anywhere that you can input text, you can you hit the microphone to look up, or to transcribe anything. So, weather. And it will take whatever you've said and transcribe into text, and of course, input it into the text box that you have there.